One is a concept that appears simple on the surface, yet it carries deep mathematical, philosophical, psychological, cultural, and spiritual significance. At its core, one represents singularity, a single unit, an entity that stands alone. It is the first natural number, the foundation of all counting, and the beginning of arithmetic. In mathematics, one is unique. It is the multiplicative identity, meaning any number multiplied by one remains unchanged. This property makes it essential in algebra, calculus, and beyond. It is neither prime nor composite, existing in its own category, reminding us of how even in structured systems, there are exceptions that demand separate recognition. Beyond arithmetic, one symbolizes unity. In societies and cultures, it often represents oneness, an idea used to describe cohesion and harmony. Think of the phrase one nation, which implies a unified people under a shared identity, even when composed of diverse individuals. Similarly, the notion of one world emphasizes a vision where the boundaries that divide countries, cultures, and races become less important than the shared experiences and mutual dependence of humankind. This idea of unity through one is often used in calls for peace, global cooperation, and environmental stewardship, where collective effort is necessary to achieve common goals. Philosophically, the concept 111 is a concept that appears simple on the surface, yet it carries deep mathematical, philosophical, psychological, cultural, and spiritual significance. At its core, T-Sen represents singularity, a single unit, an entity that stands alone. It is the first natural number, the foundation of all counting, and the beginning of arithmetic. In mathematics, one is unique. It is the multiplicative identity, meaning any number multiplied by one remains unchanged. This property makes it essential in algebra, calculus, and beyond. It is neither prime nor composite, existing in its own category, reminding us of how even in structured systems, there are exceptions that demand separate recognition. Beyond arithmetic, one symbolizes unity. In societies and cultures, it often represents oneness, an idea used to describe cohesion and harmony. Think of the phrase one nation, which implies a unified people under a shared identity, even when composed of diverse individuals. Similarly, the notion of one world emphasizes a vision where the boundaries that divide countries, cultures, and races become less important than the shared experiences and mutual dependence of humankind. This idea of unity one is often used in calls for peace, global cooperation, and environmental stewardship, where collective effort is necessary to achieve common goals. Philosophically, the concept of one can be traced back to ancient times. In many early belief systems and philosophies, the idea of a singular origin, a first cause or primary being, formed the basis of understanding the universe. For instance, in Neoplatonism, the idea of the one is the source of all existence, beyond being and thought. It's not just a number but a metaphysical principle, a source from which all things emanate. This highlights the symbolic depth of one as something far greater than a mere digit. It becomes a metaphor for origin, totality, and the infinite contained in the singular. In spiritual traditions, one holds significant meaning. Many religions emphasize monotheism, the belief in one supreme being, such as God in Christianity, Allah in Islam, or the singular cosmic force in certain interpretations of Hinduism. The oneness of God is often seen as a representation of ultimate truth, perfection, and unity. In these frameworks, one is not just a beginning, it is the ideal toward which followers strive, a singularity of purpose, morality, and understanding. Even outside formal religion, many spiritual philosophies, such as certain strands of Buddhism or Taoism, refer to the unity of all things, the interconnectedness of life, suggesting that while things may appear distinct, they all originate from and return to one source. In human psychology, the idea of one-cent can represent individuality and identity. Each person is one among many, yet each possesses a unique set of traits, thoughts, emotions, and experiences. Recognizing oneself as one individual is the foundation of personal identity. This sense of singularity is essential for understanding agency, responsibility, and personal growth. It also influences how people relate to others, striking a balance between individual needs and the needs of the collective. The dual understanding of being one among many while also being just one highlights the paradox of the human experience, simultaneously connected and separate. The word one so permeates language and expression in countless symbolic ways. Phrases like on a kind, show and only, or one in a million show how the concept carries emotional and qualitative weight. These expressions elevate on 111 cent from a number to a status of specialness and irreplaceability. To be the 1% implies being chosen, essential, or destined. Love stories often hinge on finding them one-to-one, suggesting a singular partner meant just for another. In such uses, one becomes shorthand for uniqueness and deep emotional connection. Even in modern technology and design, the idea of one is central. Simplicity is often prized, and products or systems that do one thing well are celebrated. From user interfaces to product design, the focus on a single streamlined function is frequently more effective than complexity. This practical use of one aligns with the idea that clarity and focus can lead to better outcomes, a principle that crosses into personal productivity and lifestyle choices, such as the popular minimalist philosophy that values owning fewer things, focusing on one task at a time, and living with intentionality. In the realm of logic and digital systems, one holds a fundamental place as well. Computers operate using binary code, a system made up of ones and zeros. Here, one represents an active or on state, and this basic unit underlies all modern computing. It's astonishing to realize that entire systems of artificial intelligence, digital communication, and global networks are built from arrangements of these two symbols. The presence of one in this context shows how, even at the most abstract and advanced levels of modern technology, this simple concept remains foundational. In all its forms, one is far more than just the first number. It is an idea that stretches across disciplines and cultures, serving as a symbol for unity, origin, uniqueness, and simplicity. It can represent the self, the divine, or the entirety of the universe. From mathematics and philosophy to culture and technology, one continues to shape how we think, connect, and create meaning in our lives. The concept of two may appear straightforward at first glance, simply following one in the natural number sequence, yet it carries profound meaning across mathematics, philosophy, psychology, science, and human experience. At its most basic level, two signifies duality, a pair, a balance between two distinct entities. Where one represents unity and singularity, two introduces contrast, differentiation, and relationship. The existence of two makes comparison possible. Without two, there can be no concept of otherness, no sense of separation, and no dynamic interaction. It is in this interplay between two elements that much of the world's structure and motion is defined. Mathematically, two is the first even number and the smallest prime number. It is unique in that it is the only even prime number, and this status gives it a special place in number theory. In addition, two is the base of the binary system, the foundation of all modern computing. Every piece of digital data is ultimately a string of ones and twos, more precisely ones and zeros, but it is the presence of two distinct states that allows all digital logic to exist. These two states, on and off, true and false, are the building blocks of everything from smartphones to satellites. The power of two in this context cannot be overstated. It transforms the abstract into the tangible and enables technology to mimic logic, process information, and interact with the world. Philosophically, two introduces the idea of dualism. This concept has been central to many belief systems and intellectual traditions. In ancient thought, the world was often seen as a balance of opposites, light and darkness, good and evil, male and female, body and soul. These opposing pairs are not necessarily seen as antagonistic, but as complementary. The interaction between the two is what gives rise to motion, change, and creation. In Eastern philosophies such as Taoism, the yin and yang symbol captures this dual nature of existence. Yin and yang are not simply opposites, they are interdependent, constantly interacting, and each contains a seed of the other. This reflects a sophisticated understanding of two, not as division, but as dynamic harmony. In human psychology and personal development, two often represents relationship. The recognition of another person, distinct from oneself, marks the beginning of social awareness. In this context, two means connection. It is the minimum number required for dialogue, empathy, and cooperation. Whether in friendship, family, or romance, relationships are inherently based on pairs. The existence of another allows for reflection, emotional growth, and learning. Children first develop their sense of self in relation to others, and the experience of love or companionship hinges on the presence of two. This duality enables individuals to see themselves through the eyes of another, deepening their understanding of who they are. The number two also governs much of the natural world. Biological reproduction, for instance, often relies on pairs. two sexes coming together to create new life. Genetic inheritance is based on the combination of two sets of chromosomes, one from each parent. In nature, symmetry is frequently bilateral, with two eyes, two ears, two arms, and two legs appearing in most animals. This kind of pairing is not just aesthetic, but functional, allowing for balance, coordinatio, and efficiency. Even the human brain is divided into two hemispheres, each specializing in different tasks, yet working together to produce thought, action, and emotion. In language and symbolism, the number 2 is loaded with meaning. Expressions such as two sides of the same coin, it takes two to tango, and between a rock and a hard place reflect how deeply embedded duality is in our way of thinking. Conflict, choice, and decision-making all hinge on the existence of alternatives, on having at least two options. Morality is often discussed in terms of binary opposites, right and wrong, truth and falsehood, justice and injustice. While such binary thinking can be limiting, it also provides clarity and structure in decision-making, helping people navigate complex situations with a sense of order. Culturally, the concept of two plays a role in stories, rituals, and identities. Many myths and legends involve pairs, twins, lovers, rivals, whose interactions drive the narrative. Religious texts and philosophical writings often frame spiritual journeys in terms of a struggle or harmony between two forces. Even modern storytelling depends on conflict, which typically involves at least two opposing characters or ideas. This basic structure, thesis and antithesis, leads to tension, climax, and eventually resolution, a reflection of how the number 2 drives progress through contrast. In politics and society, the idea of two often manifests in structures like dual-party systems, binary oppositions in ideology, and the division between the individual and the collective. While this can lead to polarization, it can also foster debate, balance, and compromise. The existence of two perspectives makes democracy functional, as different views must be weighed and synthesized to arrive at shared decisions. Thus, 2 is not merely a number but a symbol of relationship, contrast, and possibility. It introduces complexity and richness to a world that would otherwise be homogeneous and static. Through the lens of 2, we understand the importance of connection, the necessity of difference, and the potential for unity within diversity. It is a reminder that most of life's meaning is created not in isolation, but in the spaces between people, ideas, choices, and states of being. The number 3, while seemingly ordinary in its position as the third natural number, holds extraordinary depth and significance across cultures, disciplines, and human understanding. It is more than just a step beyond 1 and 2. It represents the emergence of complexity, the establishment of structure, and the foundation of balance. Where 1 symbolizes unity and 2 introduces duality, 3 brings in the idea of completeness, a whole formed from parts, often creating a pattern that feels natural, stable, and enduring. Mathematically, 3 is the first odd prime number after 2, and forms the beginning of many key patterns in number theory. In geometry, 3 points are the minimum required to define a plane and form a triangle, which is the simplest and most stable polygon. The triangle is structurally strong, and because of this it appears in everything from architecture to engineering. Bridges, towers, and trusses rely on the power of triangular configurations for their strength. This fundamental presence of 3 in the physical world points to its efficiency and reliability as a building block, both literally and metaphorically. In the realm of logic and reasoning, 3 often appears in the structure of arguments and narratives. A basic logical argument consists of a premise, a counter-premise, and a conclusion, 3 parts working together to form a coherent whole. This triadic structure carries over into storytelling, where the beginning, middle, and end form the natural rhythm of a tale. This 3-part framework is embedded deeply into how humans process information. It provides a pattern that is easy to understand and remember, contributing to its enduring popularity in communication, literature, and performance. 3 also plays a significant role in human perception and learning. In many contexts, 3 is the smallest number that allows for comparison and judgment. With 1, there is only a single reference. With 2, there is contrast. But with 3, patterns can emerge. This allows for analysis, ranking, and evaluation. For example, when people are asked to compare things, having 3 options provides enough variety to feel like a meaningful choice without being overwhelming. This may explain why product bundles, arguments, and speeches often feature 3 main points. Audiences naturally engage with this number. Culturally, the number 3 holds a sacred and symbolic place in many traditions around the world. In Christianity, the concept of the Holy Trinity, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, presents God in three co-equal forms. This triune structure is not only theological but also serves as a model of unity within diversity. In Hinduism, the Trimurti consists of Brahma the creator, Vishnu the preserver, and Shiva the destroyer, three cosmic functions that sustain the universe. Ancient Egyptians also honored triads of gods in their religious practices, as did various other polytheistic systems. The recurrence of three across these spiritual systems suggests a universal human attraction to its form. In philosophy, three is often associated with dialectics. The Hegelian model of thesis, antithesis, and synthesis illustrates how opposing ideas can be reconciled into a new, more evolved understanding. His process reflects a kind of intellectual and historical movement driven by the dynamic interaction of three components. The concept goes beyond duality and represents progress, transformation, and evolution of thought. It encourages integration rather than division, offering a resolution to conflicts through higher reasoning. In nature, three is also ever-present. Many plants exhibit a threefold symmetry, such as clovers with their three leaves or lilies with their three petals. Human DNA is built upon a code written in sequences of three nucleotides, known as codons, which determine the production of amino acids and thus the structure of life itself. The natural world seems to affirm that three is a powerful number when it comes to organizing complexity in a way that is functional and elegant. Language reflects this significance, as many idioms and expressions revolve around three. Phrases like, "third time's the charm," "three strikes and you're out," or "life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness" reflect how deeply ingrained this number is in communication and belief. It's no coincidence that in comedy, jokes are often structured in threes, as this rhythm tends to maximize surprise and satisfaction. Even magic and folklore feature threes prominently: three wishes, three trials, three riddles. These patterns are not just stylistic choices but speak to a fundamental way the human brain seeks order and meaning. Psychologically, three is satisfying. It offers a sense of wholeness that one or two cannot provide. In decision-making, presenting three options tends to be more persuasive, and people often perceive the third option as a balanced middle ground, even if it was placed there intentionally. This phenomenon, known as the Goldilocks effect, shows that three allows for nuance and choice in ways that feel both diverse and manageable. Throughout history and into modern life, the number three continues to symbolize a bridge between simplicity and complexity. It brings together beginnings and endings, conflict and resolution, thought and action. It marks the threshold at which unity becomes structure, and ideas evolve into systems. From the foundations of physical design to the structures of stories and beliefs, three offers a framework that humans instinctively recognize and trust. It is a number that doesn't merely count, it creates. The number four carries a profound sense of order, structure, and stability. It often represents the idea of completeness in a grounded and tangible way. As the natural number following three, four brings a sense of balance that transcends simple arithmetic. It is associated with symmetry, foundations, and the material world. In a world built on dimensions and direction, the presence of four is nearly universal, signaling an intrinsic framework that guides both the physical universe and human thought. Mathematically, four is the first composite number and the square of 2, the only even prime. This gives it a special role in number theory, as it introduces the concept of squaring in the simplest form. 4 is the smallest number of distinct elements needed to construct a square, and that shape, with its equal sides and right angles, has become a universal symbol of stability. A square does not tip, wobble, or lean, it stands firm, a perfect expression of equilibrium. Because of this, 4 is deeply tied to the idea of a strong foundation, something upon which greater things can be built. In architecture, the square serves as the base of many structures, and in design, it conveys predictability and reliability. In the physical world, 4 appears constantly as a way of defining spatial orientation. The 4 cardinal directions, north, south, east, and west, create a system through which humans navigate and understand geography. These directions not only divide space but provide a sense of control over one's position in the world. Similarly, the 4 seasons, spring, summer, autumn, and winter, organize time into a cycle that repeats predictably. These seasonal shifts govern agriculture, climate, and cultural traditions, and they mark the passage of time in a way that shapes how people experience life. The number 4 thus becomes synonymous with the structure and flow of the natural world. Across cultures, 4 frequently represents wholeness and universality. Many ancient civilizations identified 4 elements as the foundation of the cosmos: earth, air, fire, and water. These were seen as the essential components of everything in existence, and they influenced early science, medicine, and metaphysical thought. In Native American traditions, the medicine wheel is divided into 4 parts, each representing not only a direction and an element, but also a phase of life and a kind of spiritual energy. The recurrence of 4 in such symbolic systems reflects its power to capture a comprehensive and balanced view of reality. In many societies, the human experience itself is often divided into 4 stages: birth, growth, maturity, and death. These phases represent the arc of life in its most basic narrative. The number 4 gives form to this journey, suggesting that every life has a structure, a beginning and an end, and stages of transition in between. This same structure appears in many myths and stories, where characters go through trials or transformations that align with a 4-part progression. The rhythm of 4 is naturally satisfying and suggests completion. In religious contexts, 4 appears frequently as a way of conveying moral or cosmological order. In Christianity, the 4 evangelists, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, each provide a perspective on the life of Jesus, collectively giving a full picture of the gospel message. In Buddhism, the 4 noble truths lay the foundation for understanding suffering and the path to enlightenment. These are not accidental occurrences. The use of 4 provides a logical and digestible framework for teachings that are meant to guide human behavior and understanding. Psychologically, the number 4 resonates with the human desire for security. People feel comforted by things that are even, symmetrical, and complete. A chair with 4 legs is stable, a table with 4 corners is functional. Even in abstract ideas, 4 tends to create a sense of mental clarity. Many lists, systems, and categorizations aim to group information into 4s, knowing that this structure is both manageable and memorable. This tendency can be seen in frameworks used for decision-making, personality types, learning models, and management strategies. The number 4 serves as a practical guide, helping individuals organize chaos into coherence. In storytelling and art, 4 also serves as a fundamental pattern. Many classical compositions are based on 4 movements, offering balance between tension and resolution. In literature, narratives often follow a 4-act structure that adds depth and pacing to the story's development. The creative world, much like the physical and philosophical, embraces the utility and harmony that 4 brings. It allows for contrast and complexity while maintaining a sense of cohesion. From technology to culture, from the metaphysical to the everyday, the number 4 is a constant presence. It provides a template for systems that work, for structures that hold, and for cycles that repeat. It anchors people to a sense of place and time, while offering a blueprint for understanding broader truths, whether seen in the directions that guide our steps, the seasons that shape our calendars, or the frameworks that define our thinking. 4 is a number that brings order to life's complexity. It represents not just quantity but quality, the quality of being balanced, grounded, and whole.